Hello, everybody, and welcome to DevCycle Live from where developers are. My name's Andrew.
Hey, I'm Mark.
And we are here at Civo Navigate Europe 2023, here to tell you a little bit about the stuff that we've seen today, a little bit about our experience about getting here. I don't know if you've been following what's been going on, but we've been posting all day on YouTube, and we just want to kind of share some of our learnings for today's conference, and just answer any questions that you might have about what's going on here in London, England. So, Mark, can you maybe share a little bit about what Civo Navigate is all about, or what Civo is even?
Yeah, so Civo is a cloud provider, so they provide Kubernetes and compute services, just like AWS or Azure or GK or Google Cloud Platform. And so it gives us the ability to quickly spin up Kubernetes clusters for development and also for production.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. So if you are in chat, and I think, Kenny, you're in there right now, or anybody else is in there, can you let us know how our audio is? We are outside of this awesome location, but being outside, we don't actually know what this sounds like or looks like right now. So if you can come on here and give us a thumbs up and let us know what this actually looks like.
All right.
Amazing. Thanks, Kenny. Just a little bit of background about where we are today. So we are here at the brewery in London. Got a lot of rich history. That was actually a topic of this morning's pre-keynote. So Mark Booth, the CEO of Civo, was talking about this location and why they chose it. And it's got a really, really cool history. So if you're interested in finding more about that, look up like the brewery venue in London. You can find a bit more about that. So that was kind of how today kicked off. And then we actually kind of then went into our keynote, which was with
Marty and
see, this is not good.
We've already forgotten.
We've already forgotten who it is.
There's been so much stuff already today.
There's been a lot of stuff today.
But they talked about the 5 steps in being able to scale a development organization from zero to IPO. And these were some great steps if you are interested in what it takes to add developers to your organization and how to be able to organize the teams, the processes in order to fit what you're looking for. And what I kind of took out from that is one of the things was epic planning. So normally we just plan an epic with a beginning and an end, right? And they kind of had 5 steps in there around things such as being able to define the epic, plan it, most importantly, staff it, and then also including things that you need to do with, how to roll out and actually deploy that particular new feature from that epic, with organizing with marketing and then following up afterwards. So I thought that was a great piece of additional information that I got from them.
Yeah. So just so if you're wondering and you want to look these people up and you like this stuff, it's Marty Weiner and Nick Caldwell. And so they are really well known. They were involved in Reddit, which was the story that they were telling about today. So they came on in in an executive kind of management role within Reddit when it was sort of in its pre-Reddit that we know nowadays. And I think the big thing that I took away from that talk was they talked about this concept of you ship your org structure. Yes. And I was like, it's so true. Like if I look at any organization that I've been part of, I read a book recently where they said like your company inherits the founder's bad habits. But I think, beyond that, the idea of like whatever your internal structure is, at some point you're going to ship that. And so just make sure that you recognize that and then change the organizational structure to fit where the product is at that given point in time.
And I think the other point that they made was that your processes become your culture. And I think that's one of the things at DevCycle we've been working on for at least my time since we've been here, and certainly before that, is to be able to put the processes in place that we want, which is a lot about feature flags, right? And developer productivity. The tools that we have are now built into our culture, that we have this culture of experimentation at the development level, that we deploy things without fear on a continuous basis. If we have something that we need to do, we put a feature flag around it, and then we try it out in production and see how it reacts.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was sort of the pre-morning session. Got a chance to connect also with some awesome DevRel folks here. So Kunal Kushwaha is here, Community Classroom fame. I think it's still called Community Classroom. Ran into some folks from GitHub Education. If you don't know about GitHub Education, DevCycle is part of the GitHub Student Developer Pack. So students get access to our sort of paid tier, but for free, if they do actually want to get access to that. Ran into some folks, Akira, who I think I posted a short with. So he's part of a startup out of Japan who does developer productivity stuff. And so super excited to connect with him. Yeah, and so like that's it. Have you connected with anybody interesting?
Well, yeah. So I got my Code Zero swag today. So my friends at Code Zero did a workshop with their launching their new product version 2 that they just released today. And also we didn't mention at the keynote that they fired off the shirt cannon, and Andrew did get one, although he hasn't put it on yet. So we did. So right. So we did get. So he's just digging in his bag right now to get it. Yeah, so Code Zero, I'm going to talk about tomorrow at my talk, where I discuss about how to be able to move from a local development environment utilizing Docker Compose to utilizing Civo Kubernetes clusters and Code Zero. So Code Zero allows you to expose services on your Kubernetes cluster as if they're running locally, and you can use local DNS and ports in order to be able to connect to them. So you can offload all those services that you normally would run locally, such as database caches, local AWS instances, things like that, and then put that into your Kubernetes cluster, and then from there be able to connect to them locally. That way you don't have to run everything in the kitchen sink on your local machine in order to get your development environment up and running.
Yeah, and if you want to meet the team behind Code Zero, head over to YouTube. You can check out the YouTube short. I also posted on social media. Check it out. You can get a chance to meet the team, which is
So that's Reed and Narayan.
And they're actually based on the what we all came. We traveled 8,000 kilometers just to see people that we live really close to. Yeah, so here's the shirt that we won, which it turns out I will need to shrink down a little bit to fit into this. But again, Civo Navigate, and again we're here in London, England today for this conference. So yeah, that was a great talk too. So if you haven't checked out Code Zero, it's live now. Like,
yeah,
go try it out right now, right?
Absolutely.
So I think I put the link elsewhere, but it's codezero.io, and you can check it out if you're in the Kubernetes space. And if you're not, then what better reason to try out Kubernetes than to try out Code Zero, or try out Code Zero and then try out Kubernetes, because you're gonna need both in order to get started.
Exactly.
So what talk did you go to next?
Right. So then after that, I went and listened to a multi-tenancy talk for Kubernetes. And what's really interesting about that is you have a choice when you're trying to build a lot of different Kubernetes clusters or deploy to Kubernetes. Is you either create a lot of clusters, one for sort of each team to deploy their code into, or you create one cluster and then you have to manage all the permissions in there. There's sort of very simple tooling that comes native to Kubernetes to do that. But this talk was about a product called Parallels and Capsule, which make doing both permission management and multi-tenancy easy. So that way you can have specific users and you can give them specific permissions into your cluster, and then they can then deploy their workloads into that cluster as if it was native, and then making it really easy for them to be able to spin up those workloads.
Yeah. I actually totally forgot about my first talk too. It obviously made a great impression. You know what? The Code Zero one made a better impression. No, I went to the Learn to Hack workshop, the first one, which is very cool.
Did you? Are you going to hack now?
I was very impressed. So I've seen a lot of these like hacker training things that have been developed, and I mean this one. It immediately threw me because and obviously it makes sense. The site was it didn't have it didn't have an SSL certificate.
Oh, okay.
And so immediately trying to go into it, my Google Chrome was like, "This is bad. I don't like this."
And
I was like, "Oh, of course they're doing it," because it was all about sort of cross-site scripting and just messing with the parts of the website that you shouldn't normally mess with, showing bad practice for security. But really cool, and that was actually run by. Who was it? The CEO of defense.com, which is very cool. And I'll share a link to the site, because it was really cool. And I think you can just like sign up for it and try it out. It's pretty like straightforward, and they give you all the details. So it was definitely not something I was expecting to see here, but it was kind of nice to actually be able to do something very different that I was able to handle without having to like need a really intense device, which surprising. Yeah, and then we kind of split ways most of the morning. We did. Yeah. And then I guess the next one that I went to was, and I mean, I will admit, so I was posting on social media at the time, so I probably got a little bit less out of it than I wanted to, but I got connected through the program manager who runs the Octernship program, which is a new internship program that GitHub Education is running, was doing a talk, and I wish that I'd paid more attention because it really touched on the talk that Jonathan, our CTO, recently gave at an APIs and IPAs about WASM and why we use WebAssembly to build our cross-platform APIs. And so the talk was called Is WASM Too Soon or Too Late Next Generation Perspective? And so it was all talking about how to prepare people for the world of WebAssembly and what that looks like in community building. And I caught pieces of it, but I was trying to get videos up so that y'all could see kind of what we're doing today, and I didn't take as much advantage of it as I could have, and I need to make sure not to do that for the next session. Are you going to the community one too?
No.
You're not going to check that one out?
No,
I'm definitely going to go to
that's
the
for you.
community one.
I pointed that one out to make sure you knew about it.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Because that's a community thing.
Yeah,
you should go to that one.
Yeah, that one's very interesting. So yeah, what about you, Mark?
Yeah, so a couple of talks today have been about sustainability. And so one of the talks I went to was about the CNCF group that does sustainability with inside Kubernetes. And so they talked about how you can actually calculate your CO2 emissions that are running inside your Kubernetes cluster, which I thought was fantastic, because sometimes it's, we just run stuff, right? We don't think about the cost, the CO2 emissions out of the servers that we run. And so this group is building out tooling so that we can calculate what our emissions are based on the workloads that we're running, which I think is kind of fantastic. And certainly for us on the West Coast, our energy is really cheap. Like we're talking 11 or 12 cents, Canadian a kilowatt hour. Where here in the UK, it's 85p a kilowatt hour. So it's huge. So the cost of you running workload is so much more expensive to run here. So they're looking for a lot of ways to be able to not only just reduce their CO2 emissions, but also reduce their overall costs for these workloads. And so that came out in a number of different talks. And I think that's something that we don't necessarily think of when we do workloads, but it's now that there's tooling there, we can add that in, and then we can calculate those costs and say to ourselves, are we doing the right thing? Can we do things not only to save money, but also to save the environment?
I love that. Also, wasn't there an announcement that went out today, a product announcement?
Yeah,
something around this?
Yeah. So Civo has this partnership now where they're going to put in the UK data centers in places that are near swimming pools, so that they can use the excess heat of their GPUs to heat the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is a fantastic way of, so now all those machine learning models that everybody wants to run, which are hugely GPU intensive, we're now taking all that extra energy and we're, instead of heating the pool with electricity or gas or something like that, we're using, CPU power, GPU power to do that. So I think that's really neat. Now, they're only doing that in the UK, which again, because the cost of energy here is so high. And of course, all their energy is generated either by nuclear or by coal, where out in DC, all ours is hydro. So it's, relatively clean. But it's certainly great to see that there's a cloud organization that is looking towards that in order to be able to help their customers with their CO2 emissions.
Yeah. I mean, especially how much of a focus this is globally right now, and the fact that there's a forward-thinking cloud service provider that can deliver has feature parity to AWS and all these other major players that can do this is super exciting.
Yeah.
And great to see them announce it today. And then so what's on for the rest of the day for you? What are the sessions that you're going to check out?
Well, so there was one more talk I went to. So
okay.
I went to see Dee, who did a talk on telepresence. Right, and she coined she didn't coin it, but she said she didn't coin it. She said someone else did. Called Local, which is remote and local, which is pretty much the talk that I'm going to give, which is the whole idea of being able to run just the process you're working on locally and everything else inside a Kubernetes cluster. So I really appreciated that. But very much like how we talk about feature flags, and there's other feature flag tools out there, a lot of what she was talking about is exactly what I talk about, which is how to be able to utilize Kubernetes clusters to get workloads off your local computer so that you can develop all your you can develop just the microservice or just the front end you're working on locally, and everything else runs somewhere else. So you don't have to buy developers gigantic laptops. They don't get brought down to their knees every time you try to run the development environment. And also allowing you to debug a process locally and make it look like remote debugging. So one of the key things that both CodeZero and Telepresence do is intercept, so that you can have a front end running in your Kubernetes cluster that you can type into your browser and use, and then you can have a microservice that's running locally, and the traffic gets routed to your local microservice, so you can set a breakpoint. So now all of a sudden you're doing remote debugging of your microservice, what looks like remote debugging of your microservice using local tools, which is incredibly cool, because one of the problems that we've always had is remote debugging is incredibly hard to set up and incredibly hard to run. But now all we're doing is we're just run it locally using local tools. So she was talking about that in the same way that I talk about it as well. So I just love the idea that there's other groups that are kind of presenting the same sort of developer experience that we're trying to present here.
So does that mean that you're going to coin the term lookout?
Lookout.
Lookout. Just steal something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, she said she's going to find me the reference for that. But, we'll see. So.
Yeah. And what's so funny too, right? This concept of like local, especially now that people are using cloud IDEs, and local means a lot different things, but also just because you can use a cloud IDE doesn't actually make it any easier to do it if you don't have all of these integrations and tools like CodeZero and like all of it. So
you know, one of the interesting things about developing software in a team, right, is so if my future team has an application to build, someone is going to work on the API and someone's going to work on the front end. Well, do I have to wait for the API developer to finish and check their code in before I can actually start developing my backend? Well, no. Right now with CodeZero, with Telepresence, these kind of tools, we can actually both be working on the same problem, but the code's running on different. One's running on my desktop, and the other one's running, the API developers running on their desktop. So I can use their API while they're still developing it. And so I don't have to wait for them to finish before I say things like, oh, there's a bug, or oh, I forgot this field. Right? You need to send me that field as well. So that collaborative, development now is much faster, being able to utilize tools like CodeZero.
I love that. So I think that's all the talks we've attended so far. Right?
Yeah.
So we're only here on, hold on, let me ditch this. I feel like this is not as bad now. It's probably fine for everybody else. So we're only here day one of the conference. So Mark and I here, we're here at conferences for the next 4 days. So today, day one of our 4-day conference series here at Civo Navigate. We're going to be back again tomorrow for day 2. Lots of exciting stuff. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then Thursday and Friday, we're switching gears. So moving away from cloud computing and moving towards developer relations. So we're headed to DevRelCon, which also happens to be in London. But the more important thing that's happening before we get to DevRelCon on day 2 is that Mark is going to be speaking on how to never develop locally. What's the name?
What is the title?
I've thrown you.
My title my talk has many titles. But the actual title is Replacing Docker Compose with Kubernetes and CodeZero. And so I'm going to talk about how to build a better local development environment, local development experience, and moving away from Docker Compose. Now, Docker Compose is a great product. It works really well. But at some point, it can become too heavy for your machine. You have too many microservices, too many databases, too many caches running locally. How can we take all that effort and then offload that onto a remote Kubernetes cluster, so that all that I have running locally is just the process that I'm developing on, right? So I'll talk about, the reason why you want to do that, the problems that you can run into over time with Docker Compose, and then how to utilize CodeZero and Civo's Kubernetes offering to be able to run an easy to use developer cluster and then run those processes remotely.
Yeah, and I think that they are recording. In fact, I know that they are recording all of these talks. So if you can't be here in London because you don't have time or money or whatever reason you can't be here in London because you live here, those talks are probably going to be uploaded onto the Navigate site or YouTube or something like that, or we'll make it available in our community. So if you don't already, let me throw this banner up here. You can head over to bit.ly/DevCycle DevCycle Discord. Join the DevCycle community if you want to stay up to date on more of these things when they're happening. Then head over there. You can also find Mark and I just at Andrew or at Mark. There's only 2 of us at DevCycle, but I don't think I shouldn't have done that, Nicholas. There's only 2 of us at DevCycle, and Andrew's at DevCycle, but I'm the only one on Discord, and then Mark is our only Mark. So you can find us on there and get more information if you'd like to. And then, so at DevRelCon Day 1, we're going to be back here live streaming. So if you are waiting for more Civo Navigate news, unfortunately, we're not going to be live again at this conference just because we want to be focusing on the conference. But we're going to still be recording shorts over the next day and a half of this conference, so you can check that out. So be sure to follow DevCycle HQ on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. Or if you just would rather go on YouTube, you can see we're uploading stuff on YouTube all the time as well. And then Friday, I'm going to be giving a talk at DevRelCon on using teaching skills in the world of DevRel. I'm going to be introducing a new kind of theory, paradigm, practice, way to organize your DevRel activities, kind of you think about it from a teacher's perspective. So that will also be uploaded online later. But maybe for the next couple minutes, just to kind of finish things off here, Mark, are there any talks tomorrow that you're excited about? Anything that's coming up?
I haven't looked at tomorrow. No.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at it. Now it's like this is the joy of live is like we can do it live. And if you're on stream right now, chat, and you have questions for us, throw them out to us. We would love to answer your questions.
Well, Kelsey Hightower,
yes,
one of the originators of Kubernetes is the keynote tomorrow. So everybody will be here for that. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Because he's got lots of great things to say.
Yeah.
What else is going on? There's my talk.
Yeah. Obviously, your talk.
You might go to that.
Might go to that. Might show up. Depends on how the rest of today goes.
Exactly.
There's some cool talks like building an internal developer platform. I've heard about this a lot. I don't actually fully know what an internal developer platform really is, but I'm interested. I should probably go to that.
Yeah. You can find out exactly what it is.
And I know Paul's got a talk tomorrow at 2:00, I think, that I was talking to him about today that I'm really interested in. What is that talk? Where are you hiding? Kunal. Dinesh's talk tomorrow. Kunal. Yeah, how to navigate the CNCF landscape. That's actually huge because the CNCF landscape, if you ever look at a CNCF map of like all the different initiatives that are there, it's actually really hard to understand things. And so I think that's going to be really beneficial. If you're already in the CNCF world, you might have heard of something feature flag related, open feature. Definitely worth checking out if you're thinking of that open feature, or if you are looking at sort of cloud native and projects like that. Open feature is a new kind of standard that's being developed for feature flagging. DevCycle is a part of it. Our JavaScript SDK is already sort of works with open feature, and we're working on more all the time. I think Jonathan has published blog posts on it already. So there's stuff in our blog. Just Google open feature DevCycle and you should be able to find it. But yeah, I'm super excited to attend that one tomorrow too.
Yeah, I got Dinesh, the CTO of Civo, was talking about infrastructure as code using Terraform, which is close to my heart. I do a lot of Terraform in my time, so it's interesting to see how he manages his gigantic global cloud infrastructure utilizing that. So that'll be good. That'll be fun to see.
And then I think that's kind of the big things. I did hear that in the fun game sessions, they're doing a PS5 giveaway.
Oh, really?
Or PS6. I don't know what generation of PlayStation they're on right now, but they're giving away whatever the newest one is.
Yeah, I missed that.
But I think there's still time for that tomorrow. And then I think there's going to be some really great sessions that are going on tomorrow too that I'm sure we'll update you on. So if you don't already, and you're here on Twitch, find us on YouTube. Just search DevCycle on YouTube and you'll find lots of videos that are related to us. You'll find Mark, you'll find me, you'll find lots of videos. And check the short section if you want to see kind of what's going on at the next week for these conferences. And let us know what you think. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. If you're here on I love being able to say that. Pound that subscribe button or follow button or whatever it is. But we'd love to see you around. And like I said, I've got that link down there on the screen, right there, going across, that says join our community. We really do want to see you around our DevCycle Discord. So jump on there. And yeah, we're not streaming for long today because there's lots of great talks and we don't want to miss them. So we're gonna end this off in literally 2 minutes. But Chad, if you've got any questions, if there's anything that you're desperately wondering about, let us know now. We'd love to answer your questions. We're just going to vamp for like a minute if you don't. So throw comments in there, and be sure to check out the awesome stuff that's going on at these conferences too. All of the stuff will be uploaded later. Yeah,
right.
Are you happy that we made this trip all the way?
Yeah, no, this is great. All that way to here.
All that way.
No, that was good. That was good. So
yeah. I think this is going to be good. And thank you all for tuning in here on Discord. We will be back. Just like I said, we're going to be live from DevCycle on Thursday. And it's going to be this same time that I booked it in, I think. Yeah, actually a little bit later. So I booked us in for 3:30 p.m. London time, which is like 10:30 a.m. in Toronto, and in Vancouver it is 7:30 a.m. So a little early. Very, very great thing to wake up to is Mark and I talking about awesome things. So come back here. We will be here again on Discord, on Twitch, and then we'll be back in a lot of different places as well. And be sure to give Civo Cloud on all of the different platforms. Be sure to follow them. They're doing really cool stuff. Pretty sure it's a freemium model. I'm pretty sure it's free to get started. I want to say we're gonna find out the answer to that question.
I think you get some credits for the first for like a week.
Let's see,
for a month's worth of time. No, you don't do 250. You get a month's worth of credits.
That's pretty good.
So you can run at least one Kubernetes, probably 2 Kubernetes clusters at the same time to get yourself started.
It's pretty equivalent to like DigitalOcean.
Yeah, but it's just so fast to start up. There's a command line utility. You basically type, Civo K8s up or create and give it a name, and it's up and running, right?
Yeah.
So you don't really have to think too much about it. You don't have to be a Kubernetes expert in order to be able to get it going. Then you can take your manifest, no matter what you use, whether or not it's Helm charts, kops, customize, straight up manifest, and you can go and deploy your application. So if you wanted to deploy something into there in production, easy to do, relatively inexpensive on a monthly basis. But if you're doing development work, it's a great way to sort of spin up a development environment. You can put a lot of horsepower behind it if you need to, and then you can develop locally against that.
Yeah. And if you haven't already and you're not sure why you're here, but you showed up now and you're like, what's going on? Try out DevCycle. Go to devcycle.com. We are 100% free to use to get started, obviously, and then really affordable. We scale with you. And so no seat-based pricing around here. We want to give you the skills that you need, or tools that you need, I should say, to develop faster and develop more safely. So check it out. Check out our documentation, and find us online. So with that, we've reached a little over our half-hour point. So we are going to say farewell for now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you around the DevCycle community. Bye.